Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another beautiful video. Today I would love to talk about archival fashion. Yet I'm not going to talk about it in the sense that people usually talk about it. I'm more going to talk about what from today or the past couple years will become archival fashion. I would like to make some clarifications first about what I'm exactly talking about. If you do not know, archival fashion is basically a clothing item most recognizable throughout all of time because they are, one, very expensive to get, two, you can't get them anymore, and three, they're just beautiful pieces that have inspired other pieces. So it would be a new silhouette that completely changes everything. So I'll just start off by talking about what I'm not going to talk about, and that would be the discontinuation of items. Of course, when something gets a season assist, like the Rick Owens Dunks, it will be discontinued and it automatically reaches this archival status because you can't get them and everyone knows what they are. So then once again, the price goes very high up. I don't think I'll be talking about discontinued items because I can't really predict what will be discontinued from these seasons. But I would like to talk about a designer and then just go more in depth. So first, unfortunately, to start off on a sadder note, one way a piece can become archival is if a late celebrity is known for wearing it, such as Lil Peep, and you see it with the Gosha scarf sweater. Of course, I don't know too much about what the resale was on it, but now, unfortunately, the prices are pretty jacked up, and it's pretty hard to get one of these items, either because the people are collecting them, and they're just saving it for themselves, which kind of adds another layer of archival fashion rarity, I guess. It would be how willing are people to sell off their item, either for profit or they have to get rid of it, or they just want other people to have it and give it a second life. And how willing are people to keep it for a very, very long time, therefore limiting the supply and demand, and then you have a very small market, which could also make it instantly an archival piece. One thing that I love to tend to go towards would be archival pieces where the silhouette inspired other silhouettes, or you can really tell the amount of effort and detail the designer put into it, and thus the rarity and the stigma around it is so positive that everyone wants one because it's either amazing tailoring, which I've talked about that I love before, amazing stitching, amazing design, or maybe the designer themselves was leaving the collection at that point, and thus the item becomes very hyped almost to the point where it becomes the archival status. I would like to talk about, before I get into the one designer, why items might lose their value over time. And that would be re-releasing. So we can look at examples of number 9 with their cigarette shirts. Yes, the original ones probably go for a good amount, maybe $200 for a t-shirt, which is steep, but you can also get re-releases of the cigarette shirt, and then they're less valued. You can see the exact same thing with the helmet length painter jeans. There's the re-releases from 2016, if I'm correct, but then there's also the 1990 ones, and those have a much higher price point than the ones you'll see now. So you, of course, can't predict either if, let's say, I buy a pair of shoes from Rick Owens now, and I think it's going to maybe be an archival piece because not everyone can afford to buy the pieces for resale, especially once they become archival. So getting a good collection now from your favorite designer is a surefire way to definitely have a couple archival pieces that you can say, I got this when it first came out, which I feel has a lot more power to it than, or respect to it, than if you're getting it for resale a couple years, 10 years later. Then we get into pieces that are much, much older. So we go into old Vivienne Westwood, we go into many other brands, early Carol Christian Pole, very early Raf Simons. right? All these brands that, because the items are maybe 20, 30 years old now, there is no other way to get them. You know there's not going to be a re-release of them, except for what I'm going to talk about with the designer. And it really brings out this rarity to it that makes it an archival piece. Then of course you have to decide what type of person you want to be with these archival pieces. There's archivists who will want to collect the pieces and keep them for a very long time. There are also museums that keep pieces, as these fashion pieces are so beautiful and so testimony to stand the test of time that they will automatically become archival. You'll mostly see this with very extravagant pieces and dresses and stuff like that, and that's what makes a real big difference within what you're going for exactly when you want an archival piece. Now the designer I'd like to talk about would be Spring Summer 2000 Raf Simons. After looking through his collection, it seems obvious that even though he had a lot of time pre-Miu Miu or pre-Prada, he almost wanted to take a best of collection and revive some of the pieces but change them a bit. We can see this through a smiley sweater that is obviously based off of the I Love New York sweater. We see it based off of the lab coats. We see it off of patchwork hoodies and shorts. And yes, we see some new pieces, but it really brings up what happens when a designer tries too hard to make an archival piece. Of course, all designers, when they're designing an item, love the item and they want it to stand the test of time and they want it to be this special piece that someone will think, I need this no matter what. That's basically a designer's dream. And there does get to a point though where you can almost tell, if you know enough history, that the designer is trying with every single piece a little too hard to do this. And I don't know if it's sad or if it just shows a new wave of what's gonna happen in 2020 with fashion, because fashion is always changing. And there's been recent events that are going on still that are changing fashion. And everything is sort of shifting to a very buying secondhand, looking at archival pieces. So maybe Raf made a very good decision by making these pieces that he knew did well, putting a little twist on them, of course, changing them. And yeah, I just find it very fascinating. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys took something out of it. I really find the idea of what could be archival in a couple years so fascinating, because it purely could be anything that you have in your wardrobe right now and you would never know. So, you know, hold on to pieces, do your research. If you really want an archival piece, yes, you can spend the money, but if you can say you got it when it first came out, that's a good feeling. So as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and have an amazing day.